today what we're going to work with is I want to work with character arc. This is so important in terms of helping you decide which story you want to write. Whether you're writing fiction or memoir, which we are, it's the same things. And so let me do a share here. Where we're going to start, we're going to get to character arcs in a minute. But what I want to talk about is what is at the beginning of a character arc, oftentimes, or at the end of a character arc. And it's so interesting and fun because I ran into this video as I was on my way here, and I thought, wow, it really just explains it in a great way. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they're four guys that do these behavioral, they do interrogations with cops, and I can't remember what it's called, but Chase Hughes is part of that. They do behavior courses and reading sign language and all of that kind of thing. So just to go back for a minute, I want you to, as I'm playing this, I want you to write for yourself notes about what you identify with in your own life. If you have any, like, immediately my mind was going to, oh yeah, he'll be talking about how you do the same thing over and over again, and he's going to talk about the reasons you do it. There's no shame behind it. It's actually a physical thing why we do. And so you remember in the beginning of the hero's journey, we begin in the ordinary world. The ordinary world is what we learned growing up and since then. And it's a lot of the behaviors that repeat over and over again. So it came to me that I want to show this to you before I show the character arc. And by the way, for those of you who are not writing memoir to publish, I mean, it's great if you are, but if you aren't, this is the whole point behind memoir, is to begin to see how we can transform purposefully. How did we do it last time, and how can we do it again in the future? So this is Chase Hughes. He does the behavior or whatever. They work with psychopaths and other people to interrogations. Four guys read the body language. So this is very interesting. I'm going back to the beginning. Take notes, please. Not about what it is, but about how it goes with your life.
Let's talk about what has probably...
Can you hear?
Yes.
Great.
Okay. Wrecked your relationships in the past and wrecked many other things. It's probably the same thing that's drained your mood and your energy levels in life. And maybe it's the one thing that made you connect to the wrong people in relationships or jobs, or take the wrong job in general, or maybe just ruin your sense of peace in life. It's definitely not random, and I'm willing to bet pretty good money that you've called it intuition before. In NCI, we call this behavioral magnetics. So we're not talking about habits. We're not talking about some kind of a mindset. We're talking about something that I refer to personally as emotional gravity. What do I get pulled into? What are the little gravity vortexes that I get sucked into emotionally? It's the quiet thing that tells your mind, I need that thing even if it's bad for me, or even if it hurts. I need that thing even if it's bad for me. And the core of what I want you to get from this is harsh. So I'm going to start with this bottom line here, and then we're going to unpack a lot of this. The nervous system, your nervous system, does not want what's healthy. It wants what is familiar. So let's dissect what emotional gravity means and what that truly is. Humans are very predictable, but it's not because humans are stupid. It's because our nervous systems are very, very smart. Your brain doesn't want new things. It wants old things that it already knows how to survive. This is why somebody who grew up in absolute chaos is going to feel bored when there's peace. This is exactly why somebody who was ignored as a kid gets addicted to people who give them no attention or take their attention away on a very regular basis. It's why somebody you probably know in your life was constantly controlled as a kid, and then they start controlling everybody else. And what do they call it? Leadership when they grow up. They're not chasing what feels good. like you might think, because of needs, decisions, and values. They're chasing what feels like home. Even if home was hell, they're still chasing home. So write this one down. This is how the system works. If it feels familiar, it feels safe. If it feels safe, then it becomes attractive. If it's attractive, then it becomes repeated. Familiar, safe, attractive, repeated. That's it. So you're not choosing, you're recycling. People are not choosing, they're recycling. And not all of these emotional magnets or emotional gravity traps look the same. Some of them are super loud and screaming. Some of them are very quiet, whispering. So I want to take you through the 4 types that you're going to see out there in the wild, even in yourself. And the first one is called the mirror magnet. This pulls you into and toward people and environments that treat you the way that you were treated growing up. If dad was really critical, you're going to find critical people. If mom was distant, you're going to date somebody who's emotionally 3 states away from you. Type 2 is the echo magnet. This one makes you just recreate pain to give you the placebo that you're in control. That's all it is. I'm going to remanufacture pain so it feels familiar, which gives me a fake feeling of control. So this is when you choose burnout, you choose drama, because at least you're the one holding the match that lit the fire this time. And then we have something called the reversal magnet. And this one kind of flip-flops the roles. This one flips it over. So you become the thing that hurt you. If you felt powerless, you become the dominant one. If you ever felt invisible, you take over every room. You're the loudest person in every room. This is not healing, but it feels like healing. It's the placebo of feeling better. It's armor with a smile on it, is what it is. It's not healing anything. And then we have type 4, the completion magnet. And this one's kind of sneaky because you keep finding people in your life who resemble the people who hurt you. Why would we do that? Because we hope to God, we pray, this time I'm finally going to get the love that I didn't get back then. I need to find that person so I can learn how to control that type. So this is every one of us probably here tonight has an internal voice or a friend with an internal voice that says, you know what, maybe they'll fix it. He's going to get better. He's really working on himself now. He's gonna start fixing all those things. Everybody's got a friend like that. It's a trap. It's a fantasy. It's Groundhog Day, but with trauma. That's all it really is. Let's dive into these a little bit. I want to give you a picture of some of these so you can see what they look like in the real world instead of some abstract description of them. So when it comes to the mirror magnet, let's say we have this guy, he's mid-40s, great career, really sharp, charismatic, but every relationship ends the same way. He's drawn to that tone of voice, that disapproving tone of voice, what I would call passive disapproval. And it's not because he wants it, it's because it feels like his mom. He didn't like it when he was a kid. That's not what I'm saying. He hated it when he was a kid. But it taught him how to love on a leash. And now his little compass is pointing to north and saying, that feels like home. Let's go to that because it feels familiar. It feels like home. In a reversal scenario, I personally met a woman. She used to be really quiet, gentle. She got steamrolled very constantly on a very regular basis. And now she leads a team of 200, controls every decision, keeps people very much on edge. She's respected, but no one's close to her at all. So she says she's just kind of like, I'm really just focused on work. She's not. She's terrified. She's scared. The part of her that was vulnerable got punished. So now she becomes the punisher. That's the reversal magnet. She became the threat so she would not feel threatened again. And it works. It works. It's actually effective, but it's lonely. And then we have let's do an example of a completion magnet. And this one's kind of nasty. Actually, this goes back to a guy that I've coached one time. There's a guy I coached, and he's got a brilliant mind, amazing, beautiful heart, and he keeps falling for these women who are really chaotic, like emotional hurricane type of people. And every time he's trying to help, he's trying to make her get better, so she's finally gonna love him back. And what he doesn't realize is he's chasing his dad, not his mom. He's chasing his dad through women. So dad was volatile, never said I love you. So now he's on this lifelong quest to finally be enough for someone just like dad. So his little script says, find somebody like dad and complete the process. Then I will complete this unresolved story arc that's been going through my entire life. Not because it's good, because it's unfinished business. What I told him is, like, you are not dating women. You're dating the hope that this time the monster becomes safe. I'm going to make a monster become safe. That's all you're doing. You're not dating women. I want you to let this sink in really quick. Just because something pulls you in does not mean that it's right for you. It just means that it matches your oldest pain. That's really what it is. How do we break this spell? Like, what do we do to get out of it? What if our compass is pointing to some dysfunctional, toxic, awful human being or awful situation? We have to rewire it. Step one of this is to spot the loop. And a pretty easy question here is just asking, what keeps happening that I say I don't want, but I keep allowing? And then we get to step two, and we want to name the magnet. It's a mirror, or is it echo? Is it reversal, or is it completion? And then step three, we want to trace the original source. So there's three questions here. Question one for this step three is, who taught you that this was normal? Two, who, and this is a big one, whose love came with conditions? And number three, and this is even deeper, who in your life made you feel that safety has a cost? Like you had to invest something in order to feel safe. But then we get to step four, exposing the lie. So the pull that we feel, the adrenaline spike, that's not chemistry, that's childhood. So where is the lie that happened in childhood that I'm continuing today? And if you start going through some of these transitions and undoing and unraveling it, I want to tell you one thing. You have to go into this knowing that peace will be absolutely unfamiliar at first. So let me just tell you that the hardest part of doing any of this work is peace doesn't feel peaceful when your system is wired for chaos. It feels like disruption. It feels like something's around the corner. It feels like I don't deserve this. What's about to happen? So peace is never peaceful if you have a system that's wired for chaos. It feels boring, maybe, like something's missing, like a letdown. But that's the absence of adrenaline that's going to trick you into coming back to that gravity trap, whatever you want to call it, the magnet. You're not bored, you're healing through this process. So if you go through this, it's not hard. Everything we're talking about, the back of your mind is going to be like, yeah, I could do this, but yeah, it's going to take like years. It'll take 6 months. It'll take me 19 days just to walk through all these 4 questions that Chase put out there. That's not.
Okay. So what are you getting from this, and what does it have to do with writing memoir? Might be the
It's
most.
making us ask the tough questions.
Say that again, Johnny.
It's making us ask the tough questions, basically, of why we want to write this memoir. What is it that is inside us that we're trying to get out?
Yeah, and hopefully, we're not talking here about, I mean, if you need to go heal something, you might want to go work with him. But what we're talking about here is you've had an event like this in your life. You're either in the middle of it, you've seen some progress on it, or you're well, I honestly feel as if I've gone through every stage of that and experienced it in my dating life. Now I had, and starting at 4 years old, almost 54 years of dating. So, I had plenty of time. But the truth is, every decision we make in life is based on some of this unconscious programming that we have. Only the thing is that we know it more now. So when we ask, how did you transform? Can everyone write down one time you know for sure that you gave up some old behavior? It can be drinking, it can be drugs, it can be a relationship, it can be a job. What's one time that you gave up something? Or if you're writing autofiction, that your main character gave up something that felt really familiar and good, but wasn't quite cutting it in your life.
I have a little bit different take on this,
Talk about it, Maggie.
but
Yeah, talk about it.
I don't think I gave up. I don't think I don't think I gave up anything. I think things were taken from me. I didn't say, "Oh, I'm going to quit." I mean, it took me 14 years to quit smoking. I asked and one day I had $100 bet with the guy. My last thing I smoked was a cigar, a couple of joints, But so I don't know, it's like I've never strong armed myself into getting rid of anything. The relationships that I had to leave, maybe there was some discernment going on there. I go, all that, but basically, I just have a little bit different take on it, and I do believe it's neurological. I do believe this guy's. I mean, rewiring my brain has been the 8 last years of my life, but on point, the last 8 years specifically, tools to rewire my brain. But I've never really quit anything. I just had it. I've let go with
So,
bloody
how many of
fingers,
you would
really.
like to hear a memoir from Maggie, who's taking issue with this and is talking about her process of going through what? Getting sober, finding marriage finally, or whatever. So, go by what you said. Take what you need out of that. I did not get that it was about strong arming yourself. I got it was about observing yourself, and that's why at the very beginning of it he called it intuition. We get an intuitive hit. Go to this meeting, do this. You got to break up with this guy. It can take a year to break up with that guy or woman, but it's whatever. You see it as strong arming, so I love it. Go with that. But the point is, can you guys see that it's that the loops that we get in? The ordinary world is chaotic. Because why? Because I grew up in a home with alcoholics, and I'm young, I'm naive. How am I supposed to know that there's another kind of life out there? Love feels like where I grew up, right? Now it doesn't matter if I'm 20 or if I'm 40. We're always starting back at the beginning of the circle where the ordinary world feels. And so you're not going to teach someone, probably, maybe some of you will do more of a prescriptive memoir, probably won't be teaching people how to do it, but I want you to at least be aware you've done it. You have been one way and then come about the other way. So we could go in the other way and we could say, okay, I hear you, Maggie. Nothing, has been taken away from me. But I would say, what has brought more peace to your life? When have you been unpeaceful? What did you do, be, or allow in order to become more peaceful? That is the story. And it goes back to people sitting around the campfire and the men coming in from the hunt and saying, here's how the hunt went. We did the same thing we did, but this time we got through it and we did it this way. And that's one kind of story. Anyone else want to tell me what you're hearing in here? If there's anything else. Yeah, go for it, Miriam.
it. I mean, I liked it. I missed he was talking a little fast, so I missed something. But there was it just made me think about how I mean, I used to have these disastrous female friendships that started out with a lot of charm and a lot of fun. Just everything was great and exciting. And then they turn into really toxic, pretty much destroying me financially or any other way, emotionally, however I wanted to be destroyed that month. But I was walking with a friend one day and she said, "Why are you always attracted to women who do this to you?" And I thought about it for a minute. I thought every single one of the people that my former business partner and some other disaster female business relationships, they were all my mother that I just wanted to make her happy and I just wanted to make them love me and care about me. And they didn't have the capacity. They were in their, destruction drama queen modes. So I don't do it anymore.
Well, I love that. And hopefully you can see in your I wanted to put it in the
Memoir.
chat. I'm putting the link in the chat. So you can go back there. There's a 50 ways to think about this, but whether it's our brain or whether it's whatever, I don't want anyone feeling guilty because you've gone through this. The whole hero's journey is a maturation process from Alice in Wonderland, who is 15, to becoming more mature by the time she comes home. She knows how to handle things better. That's the easy way of saying it. I want you to be aware of the process of how you got there, because the story, you don't want to tell people, oh, hey, I got sober and it was really great. And ever since I've gotten sober, it's been no. A memoir is much longer than that. A memoir has scenes, it has all the process of getting sober. It has thought back perhaps on why you started drinking it anyway, when in my life I made a vow I would never ever be like my father. I would never ever be a drinker. So who do I go out and find? Alcoholics, whatever. I just want you to think. I want you to start thinking, whatever you've decided you want to write on, that there are repeating patterns, there are ways we got through it, and the book has what we call a character arc, and it shows that. Okay, so however you want to look at it. Now I want to do another. Well, actually, why don't we write down? Why don't you write? Okay, anyone else? If you could write here's how we could do it. I've never done this video before, but I really think it's,
I got a question.
yeah.
Um, so I noticed he was going to talk about like a bit of resistance to actually doing the work, where he said, "Well, I don't have a year to do this or whatever, 6 months or 19 days to do the work." Um, and I guess my thing is that I okay, so I gave up old behaviors, right? At
Mhm.
one point. But it doesn't mean that I've given them up for the rest of my life. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be giving them up for the rest of my life. Like I'm giving them up today, or I gave them up for 6 months at a time, and then, I started them back. Um, Maybe I'll need to give them up again in the future. But for me to say I gave this up. I'm not doing it anymore. I feel like that's a bit presumptuous, and
Mhm.
and I don't I would rather, I don't know, approach it with a bit more humility than that, than
Well,
to
that's
say,
all in how you write it, which is what we're going to
okay,
work on. We're not there yet, although you've taken classes on this, Johnny. What creates, we're going through some of the global story. I want you to pick a
uh-huh,
good story, okay?
okay,
You're not bragging. You're not
right,
you're not a narcissist for writing your story. I mean, you could be. That's not uh, my experience of anyone that I've worked with. And probably we all have a little in us. No, what we're doing is we're showing what happened. So
hmm
I'm watching The Bachelor. Let's say Maggie is there. I'm on the bed, and I have a broken foot, and I all of a sudden I jump up and I go, "Oh my God, did you hear, Maggie? What the girls said they're looking for?" And she says, "Well, no, that shows the end of Western civilization as you know it." And I say, "But listen to what they're telling me about dating, and I've never done it before. I've and we're having dialogue. I've never uh, dated in search of a husband. And then you go to what I'm thinking inside, and I'm thinking inside, oh my God, this is so unfeminist. This is everything that I learned in college and against all of that, to actually look for a husband. Only desperate people, so you'll have your internal dialogue. That's what creates a structure. You see what I'm saying? So you'll say, I don't want to be presumptive, like I've done it for, like I'm quitting forever. I'm just quitting today.
Mhm.
You're going to
Okay.
have, that's why what Maggie said, what you're saying, yes, yes, yes. I want to, within a certain structure, I'm going to teach you how to get that, your way of looking at it, into a story. And all we have to do is pick out the story where it's a good, if you want to sell it, you want to pick out a story with that in mind, that is,
Mhm.
whatever. Like the baby boomer bachelorette, might be more saleable than if I go all the way back to when I first came to California and name it something else. You know what I'm saying? So the big thing is to pick one story out of your life. And I decided the one story I would pick is finding a man that would be a husband, not dating another man who had potential and might give me another adventure, because I'd had 53 years of that. And what would that be like? And here, so caught up in doing my own thing and the familiar, I actually rewrote to put online. I dated online before. I rewrote the profile in a way that I thought would show I would like to find someone who's at least open to marriage. My friend Marla looks at it, says, it looks like Kelly wants a good time. Nothing about getting married. We get stuck in what's familiar. We can say we want something, but we get stuck in how we've done it before or what we've done. So I rewrote it, and I got help outside of myself. And when I got done rewriting it, she said, take off the Jane Fonda quote. I said, okay. It was a quote about relationships. And she said a couple more things. Whatever she told me to do, I did. And then it turned out that my husband, if he had seen that Jane Fonda quote, doesn't like something about her in the Vietnam War, and would not have picked my thing, because his cousin had been in the war and was against her. So God, talk about what Maggie's talking about. Yeah, a lot of things happen with synchronicity and all of that. And I'm going to capture that. And I am capturing that in what I'm writing. Does that make sense? Johnny, what are you hearing?
Yeah.
What I don't know. Jim wanted to say something. Jim, did you want to say something? Because I saw a hand up, but
Well, I can say all kind of things about this, but so I'm listening from it's all about resentment, which is re-sentiment,
Mm.
means you go towards the same thing again. And so I always chase it back, like, when I was 7 and I went to school in my homemade Cub Scout shirt. And one of the older boys, it was a big deal. I'm going to start the Cub Scout with the older boys. And one of the boys says, well, that's not an official Cub Scout shirt. And I go home and I ask my parents, how come you sent me to school in the wrong shirt? And my father says, well, your father's poor and you're not going to be able to have what you want. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Hmm.
Mm.
And then later, I'm in recovery and I'm reading how it works. And it says, sometimes they hurt us seemingly without provocation, but we invariably find that sometime in the past we've made decisions. So if I can, I decided I'm poor like my father. I decided I can't have what I want. And I decided there's nothing I can do about it. And I lived that out. And it was so painful, I didn't want to be conscious of it. But in learning to be conscious, I came, living this because I'm not experiencing. It's like the Groundhog Day, when the guy doesn't want to experience anything in his day, every moment is the same. But slowly, he learns to accept the old ladies and the little kid and this and that. And eventually, he gets a new day and maybe a wife, a new girlfriend, whatever. But so I hear resentment like that, like I'm sensing, and I'm designed, like he said, something's guiding this. I didn't make this up, and I'm not unique. Everybody's pursuing their resentment. They're resensing, and it's familiar, and it's perhaps comfortable. It's not pleasant, And then we meet someone. So I said, like, my wife and I were the perfect couple. She asked for nothing, and I provided it. She didn't want to know she's asking for nothing, and I didn't want to admit I couldn't imagine providing it.
Love
It's
it.
just we're lacking the truth, and that truth is painful.
I
And
love it. That is a wonderful story. You see how it goes in a circle, but in order to change things, you can call it you're listening to your intuition as he started out, or you can call it, you can look at the steps that he talked about. I want to get the questions off of there because I think they're good questions to contemplate. But I want you to write this week why you want to write this particular story. And you have to pick out one particular story. And when you get back from break, all of you, I'm going to show you the 4 kinds of character arcs. But whether they work in reverse, like Nicholas Cage, what was that one where it's was it Leaving Las Vegas where he dies at the end because he never sobers up?
Spoiler
Yeah.
alert.
Yeah. I don't care. I hate that story. But sometimes those stories work and they're the truth. So I'm going to show you 4 different ways you can write it. I'm choosing the first and transformative way. In terms of character arc, if you are just writing a series of stories, your character is not going to change from the beginning to the end. If Karen is working and trying to keep her son sober and comes up with this way to do it, it's really not about how it changes him. For example, Memoir is about how it changes her. If Marilyn starts Miss Poop and feels that her childhood and some of the chaos in her home and abuse is healed, how is it healed during that period? Well, we don't know yet, but by writing about both those things, and I'm going to talk about all of that later, and what it's called, and why I've been so enamored with Memoir. It doesn't have to be a book, but we're talking about books here, so I'm going to show you with the book. Just writing essays, writing poetry, any of that can bring you a lot of this self-knowledge. Okay. And Johnny, none of us have to worry about being selfish. We're gonna show you how to show it so it's true. And on the other hand, I wrote a scene about myself last week, and I showed how I was just totally self-obsessed and blah, 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 because at that time of my life, I was. Thank God now I can go somewhere in my life and write a memoir about it. What if I just been as great as I am today? No, I'm kidding. But you know what I'm saying? As peaceful as I am today, as able to navigate everything as I am today. No, then there's not really a book. But even Dorothy has to change before she's allowed to come home. And she changes by knowing that she has her own power to make things happen. Kind of like what Jim said. I don't have to just do what I learned growing up. I have the power to click together the shoes and make something different happen. You all have that power, and we're all above the age of 40, 50. So we all know, we've all had experience with it. So let's take a 5-6 minute break as currently. So everyone see, this was the hero's journey this week. And last week, we talked about the character arc. And I just want you to see, I'm putting everything in circles. So the hero's journey, you can see, and we had examples I hope everyone has this link already. This is the Google Doc. I'm just going to paste it and put it in the, well, might not let me paste now. I may have to do it after, but you have this document and everything that I show from here. So remember here, we have a call to action, then we don't take the call and so on. So you look in the character arc that you had limited awareness of something. You have limited awareness when you're 20 that you've been brought up in a home and you're going to pick someone that's just like your parents, but you're not even going to know they're like your parents. You're going to think they're the opposite of your parents. And then you're going to get an increased awareness, and then you're not going to want to change. That's pretty much what he said. And then something's going to happen. Events, these are all events you're going to show. You're going to overcome that and you're going to commit to a new journey. So I'll use my drinking journey. Even though I've been raised in an alcoholic home, I have no idea. And I vow that I will, as in my 20s, never drink again. Because I have an increased awareness now. I didn't know I was in an alcoholic home, by the way. I just thought my dad drank a lot. Now I have an increased awareness in my 20s that, there's such a thing as alcoholism. My dad gets sober. But I don't think I have a problem. And more than that, I have vowed to never be an alcoholic because my dad was one. So if I have to ever go to an AA meeting, let's just say, that would mean I'm an alcoholic. So I argue with myself. It takes me a long time to go to my first meeting. But when I go, in a sense, I commit to becoming sober, because I honestly didn't know that once I went to an AA meeting that I couldn't go back and drink. I just thought, well, I've done this. I can't, I have to stay sober. Now I start experimenting. Well, can I do this or can I do that and still stay sober, and so forth and so on. We'll get to these later journeys. But the point is, over this, the big change comes where now I'm starting to see where there's consequences for dating, dating alcoholics. Who do I still pick? Yeah, I still pick alcoholics. As if that's not good enough, I pick people who never want to marry. Then I pick people who are manic depressive, anything to repeat some of what I learned. But I'm learning, what did I grow up with? And I'm changing. And I'm rededicating myself to that and to mastery. And that's where I'm able to, I think, finally fill out a different kind of profile and attract someone different. And it kind of goes around and around. Okay. Any questions on that part? So you've got this, or take a screenshot of it. This is how that change he talked about in the video happens. Is anyone still here? Yes. Okay. This is how it happens. Let me go through and I just got this real quick from chat, only because I didn't want to spend time writing this myself. I'll never write my own book, but the positive change arc is the one that I've talked about in here a lot. Is Johnny back? Johnny, are you back? Jim?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good. I just don't want you to miss this, because this is what we're talking about. You can talk about it as the moral ascending arc. This is where you overcome a flaw or limiting belief. That's all he's talking about. And it probably developed because of the way you were brought up. And you often are the stages of the hero's journey, although, and Mandy got me very clear on this, because I did some more research. I knew this, but I want to be really clear. It doesn't necessarily happen exactly in that order. You can turn around and run away from any change, and then find, first, and then you can end up getting an elixir. And, I just want us to be able to construct a story, a kind of story that keeps people reading. You can write another kind of book. You know, I like all kinds of stories, but this is the kind of story that will keep people reading. So personal growth, which is what we're talking about today, follows overcoming obstacles. So getting sober, I had a lot of obstacles. I had the fact that I couldn't sit still for 3 minutes. I had to go to a meeting just to sit still. I couldn't take off work because if I took off work, yeah, I mean, a lot of you can talk to these obstacles. I couldn't stand staying home for a whole day. I mean, I had to be really sick. So it's just a journey of self-improvement, and it shows how events or relationships lead to positive transformation. So overcoming addiction, finally getting married, all of those, Cinderella story, perfect positive change, transformation. Negative change. This is really, Johnny, your questions. You can descend into darkness because we decide where we want to begin and end stories. You can descend into darkness, into all your flaws or external pressures, and it becomes a don't do this. Because if you do this, this may happen. Now, Wanda, I think some of the tales you're reading are good examples of cautionary tales. They're what happens when the Jews are attacked in Germany and they do certain things. What happens if you do this? So this teaches us how to behave and what to do in kind of the opposite way. Might be less common for a memoir, but it definitely can be a part of your memoir. So I trying to decide how far back do I want to go on the consequences of negative choices and so forth. You know, how back do you want much of your family history or just a little bit? Okay, flat arc, which is honestly, well, I'll read it. The protagonist remains consistent, and their unwavering nature drives change in others or the surrounding world. This might be, let's say, I'm writing a book on how to write improvisationally, and I tell stories about how other people change as a result of it. And I don't talk about my own change. Often, not so much on memoir, but on episodic TV shows, you'll notice the main character never changes. They just kind of stay the same unless it goes on for a few years, and they might make external changes, but we don't really look at how they're changing that much inside. That might. And then an anti arc or disillusioned fall arc. And this is a negative arc, a variation of it, where the protagonist resists change and may end up in a similar or worse state. Actually, this is the one I said with Nick Cage. He just resists any attempt to get sober. He just keeps trying and he doesn't. And then he's like, I don't want to get sober. I'm resisting everything that, you know. So it could fall into here too. And you can use an anti-arc to honestly examine a period of struggling to adapt, or you're resisting self-reflection leading to stagnation. And I will say that all four of these are great. And I've experienced some of all of these. However, for me, working with other people has helped me recognize this is what's happening in my life. If I didn't work with other people, well, reading books is other people in a way too, where I find out, oh my God, how many alcoholics are you going to pick to date, Kelly? 6, 10? You're gonna die married to another alcoholic? No, I'll pick a bipolar. Oh, now they call it, well, I used to call it manic depressive. No, so I can replicate that same behavior. So what I want you to do for next week, and we can do some of it tonight, and what I want you to start doing is so I just said like if I was looking at my story, I might start it where I land in LA. I'm wearing my pink cowboy boots. I have what you call a broken picker. I don't know how to pick a good man. Um, that's my call to adventure, is moving to California. And actually, I have a broken picker. The pink boots are here. The refusal of the call is me dating the same kind of men. And then the test and allies. Well, I meet some people here in LA. I get involved with some AA things where I'm learning about creativity. I remember that I know Julia Cameron, and that I, we talked about the Artist's Way, and I had that book before she even published it. And it's by a different title. And I start thinking I want to go in that direction. Then that's a different story. So then I have Marla, who's checking my thing, then approach to the innermost cave where I'm watching The Bachelorette and realize I got to quit dating the same way I've always dated. This might be fixing the picker with the help of Marla, returning with the elixir, which is meeting Russ after 6 months and actually recognizing that he's not just another guy to go off. I mean, there's plenty of chances to go off in different directions, but this time I'm very clear about where I'm going. So that's how it changes. Look, I look at this and I see some changes I can make, but I'm going to leave it up here. These are the steps. And I will put this link in the chat in case you have quick access to it. And just while we're here today, I want you to think, and you can use the Mandy, are you still here? Oh, maybe she just left. Oh, there you are. Mandy's working with 3 ideas. Do one, and then if you have more time later, do another. Okay. Even if you're set on the story that you're doing, it starts in different places. This is really important for Miriam, if you're still here. Okay. So I'm going to leave this for you. And I want you to pick one of your stories and show me the steps to it. So I'm just going to break us up into 2 groups. So Wanda, let's work. Let's see if we can get a couple done.
Okay.
So,
All right. My limited awareness is like, I think I'm Jewish because I converted 30 years ago, or almost 30 years ago. And my Jewish journey is all about raising and creating a Jewish home for my daughter, my baby, who went into the mikveh, into the immersion, like baptism. So I'm Jewish. In my head, I'm Jewish. That's my limited awareness. And everything I do is for creativity, and it's all art projects and doing everything around what my version of it. And it's very ego based, as if I'm looking back on it and being a little like trying to get a spin on this. So a couple years ago, I'm wanting to join a group. So my increased awareness becomes when I try to join an online group of creative Jewish women, passion projects. What are you passionate about? If everyone's working on what they're passionate about, then the Mashiach, the Messiah can come and we'll all be happy and happy. So it's like there's this weird spiritual element. And she tells me I can't be in her group because I'm not Jewish. And she's looked me up online. She sees what I've done. It's all about Jewish artwork. And she's like, I love your stuff. I love your personality. You got great energy, but you're not Jewish. And that's the first time in my life that I'm not allowed into her group because I'm not Jewish. So that's my increased awareness. And
but hadn't you
so
converted to Judaism?
I converted to Judaism as in the conservative realm of things. But at this time, because Emma's already grown up, I'm not really keeping kosher. I'm not really
Okay.
doing the holidays. I'm like skating. I'm skating and I'm
I
interested in,
love
oh,
you. Yeah. Now, yes. And some of the reluctance to change is in that period, you know, yes. And so the reluctance to change is you've already thought you were Jewish. You have to do all this stuff, all that, right? And then how do
right,
you overcome that?
right. So overcoming, overcoming and realizing that I have to really look at my life and what I say I am and what I'm doing. So, and I'm not really walking the walk. I'm talking the talk, but I'm talking my talk. I want to do my version of what it is to be Jewish. And that's fine. That's fine with my husband. That's great with my husband because if I convert Orthodox, his life gets a little challenged, a lot challenged, and my life gets challenged. So, the commitment. Oh, and then one of the other things is that there's this woman online, and she said, "Who is required to convert?" And no one, because you don't have to convert in order for to be in God's good graces. You just have to be a good person and your heart's in the right place and you're not stealing and you're not
Okay,
lying and
so
blah blah blah. Yep, yep.
let's
Please
condense.
stop
So
me.
I think you have limited awareness. You have the next stage, which I can read without glasses, is the increased awareness. Now that some may not consider you a real quote unquote Jew,
Yep,
a
yep.
reluctance to change. It's gonna maybe
It's gonna
all those
change my whole
obstacles.
life.
The
Right.
last three things you said, I would write those down. Those are all obstacles. Okay.
Okay.
And then you're going to write down some of the names of the mentors that are helping you on this.
Oh, okay. I got a lot. I got a lot
Okay.
of mentors.
Because
And
it says reluctance to change, overcoming. I'm going to imagine. And if you look at the hero's journey, the overcoming is very hooked up to the mentor side of, if you look up at the hero's journey, right? It's very,
okay.
yeah. So you want to start bringing them in there. Again, doesn't have to all be in this order, but it's good to just do it in order first if you can, and then figure out how it gets out of order. But, and, and then your commitment, let's go to there at least. What's your commitment?
My commitment is to um surrender part of my egoic um like I'm fine the way I am. I don't have to do anything more. I'm fine because I'm a good person and that's enough. And certainly it's enough, but there's something more that's calling me. And the something more is I really want to be Jewish and I want to be recognized in Israel. And if my daughter decides to marry a, a more observant Jew, that there's no question that um, I have influence over her. So I have to live, I'm sorry, I get to live my life as a more and Torah observant Jewish person.
Great. Now, what I want you to do next is I want you to think of, and this is important for all of us, concrete scenes. So your commitment is probably to a group where you're going to be studying this, something, right?
Yes, yes, which
There's
I'm already doing.
okay. So you have a scene. You have a scene. None of these are just abstract ideas. None of this is going to be, oh, and then I did that and that. That's writing about what happened. You're going
Right.
to have to show scenes. Now, not if it's
Okay.
just the beginning of the book, but why not learn this right now while we're doing it?
Okay.
You're going to want to, so show me a time, a scene, remember, has what we call a time anchor. So a specific point in time. You have a specific time anchor when you got the increased awareness is when the woman told you. You have a dialogue around that. You maybe have thoughts about that.
Right.
That is a scene. So that's
Okay.
so I try to think of examples of scenes that go with each one of those.
Oh, okay.
See what I'm saying?
Great. Yep.
Just
Yep.
we want to get more concrete. We don't want to be, oh, and then this happened and that happened. We want to get actual scenes or specific what I'm going to call time anchors, and remind me, you guys, to bring that up. Okay.
So I think right now I'm in the experimenting phase.
Cool.
So, but and my big change will be when I actually do it, right?
No, your big change may be, it's not necessarily getting the degree. It could be, how are you changing? How have you changed already? I mean, I want you to start thinking about how you've changed already, just to make that decision, maybe.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And then you listed a number of obstacles, so write those down.
Okay.
I have an insight perhaps worth sharing.
Yes, Maggie, share your insight with me, please.
I think I want to do something, and then I go on the hero's journey. What Kelly said to me that was the most impactful right now is that every step on the journey, find a scene that matches that step. That's the key, like, aha moment right now in this conversation. Great. And the other thing is, and I'm not trying to lead the witness, but you may make a decision to not do it. You don't know.
Absolutely, it can
still
end
in the
that.
process.
Yes.
So if you're
yes.
so it's going to kind of be a real time aha, there's going to be a real time thing. I mean, I'm thinking to myself lately, I'm being very successful in up a ladder, right? I'm not so sure I'm on the right wall, but I'm being very successful. So I'm going to follow through on this couple things that I'm doing because because they're there and they're in motion, and I have every, I'm going to go whatever floats my boat, basically. But it's going to reveal itself whether or not I want to continue on that thing. But so there's two things that I'm going to say. Wherever there's a step toward insight and whatever, that's when I got a scene. And the other is, I'm not so sure what the final conclusion is. Now, you're not. Some people are with their stories, they already know, but you're not. You're living in the real time, here and now, in the experimental thing. Now, there was another author who was with us whose husband was dying, and her pieces were so raw because they were right in the real time of what's going on. So you're going to have a dynamic to your piece that's real time, which actually makes it quite interesting. It's something that's very different. It's not past tense. You're in present tense exploration.
Yeah. And thank you. I very much appreciate that insight. And
your assignment for next week is to read, and this will, hopefully you're all getting it, design a structure to map the arc of change. That's, if you have the actual book and you can read the page numbers, it's 74 to 109. Okay. That's the pages that you're going. Some of this, you guys, you're ahead of the book. The second thing I want you to do is bring in the character arc of one story. If you haven't decided on the story, join the club. I mean, it's not weird to have not figured out exactly which story you're doing.
I just wanted to clarify that when we bring back that circle, do you want each bullet point to be like a scene, or is it just
both?
Okay.
And I don't know if Rusty's room got that, but Johnny and Frank, you're very serious about writing your memoirs, and Jim. So you want to also, for each point on that character arc, give me a scene. So we worked with Wanda's. Hers is about a spiritual conversion. So, for example, the opening scene is where this woman, she's living her ordinary life as she thinks she's a Jew. And then this woman tells her, no, she can't be a Jew. She can't belong to this artistic club because she's not an Orthodox, blah, etc. Jew. Then the obstacles start happening. Should she convert to this more Orthodox or not? the exact scene when that happened is that woman telling her that with the dialogue and what she's thinking as the woman's telling her the dialogue. So she's going to write that down as a sample scene for that part. Make sense? Okay. Frank and John, this way you're getting more concrete. Whatever you do, a scene is, and the other thing about a scene is time anchor. One moment in time, something happened to bring about that more awareness, for example. Johnny, you get more awareness and you remember, oh my God, this one afternoon is when it happened. That would be an example of an example scene.
You want
So
to
you,
know
sorry.
so in stand-up comedy,
Mm-hmm.
you have to have a time anchor too.
Yes,
Tuesday
because
afternoon.
it's very present or people won't follow the story that you're telling.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. So we're just beginning all of this. I don't expect anyone to do it right. I've had to go back and do mine to get more and more specific. It's going to happen in layers. That's the biggest thing is patience, which I don't know if the American culture teaches. But just know you're going to leave this class with the story to tell and all these phases and all the table of contents and a pretty good idea of how to put together a story and a scene. So don't worry. I'm going to make sure, I'm not going to be codependent and force it upon you, but if you're really interested, I will do whatever I can to help you realize that.